So good afternoon and welcome back to Freight Forecasting. I'm Michael Vincent, your host. And before I introduce this handsome young man beside me, real quick, if it's your first time, so Freight Forecasting, the show, is talking about freight forecasting. What does that mean? How do you do it? Who should be doing it? Who can do it? Skill sets, tools, data sets. Do you need a badass calculator? Do you not need a badass calculator, et cetera, et cetera? First couple shows we went over very, very high level. And so this is the first show we're going to start digging into some data here. And so I have Anthony Smith, our lead economist. Our lead economist.
Yes.
And you're also you're director of the market experts as well?
Yeah, a little bit of a director,
right?
And just, staying busy.
General all-around face of
FreightWaves now every once in a while.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
Freightonomics.
Yeah, Freightonomics. Freightonomics as well. Excellent, excellent. So we're going to dig into ECON 101 is kind of what I called this, right? So let's see here. If I move this forward, so that's you right there.
That's me.
Look at you.
Boom.
On freight forecasting.
Mama, I made it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So freight forecasting 101. So what are we talking about today?
Today we're
The
as you
industrial
mentioned,
sector?
yeah, the industrial
I have it up
sector.
there. Did I throw you for a loop?
No. I mean, I thought we were talking about the consumer. No, we're talking about the industrial sector, as you mentioned. I think you kept it high level your last shows.
Yes.
The industrial sector, we're also going to keep it high level, but we're going to dig into a couple of things here.
Yeah. So the idea is really looking at what are those data sets and how would you use them? How can you use them for freight forecast or even backcasting, right? To
confirm
models, et cetera, and to confirm, which is something economists like to do, to confirm no matter what happens that they were right.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's like, you know what? This was unprecedented. No one could have seen this coming. That's what,
prove why being wrong you were actually still kind of right.
Yeah.
No. But I jest.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, just we'll dig into a couple of these things here. So I guess first we're going to talk about the industrial sector, right? So the different components of the industrial sector, I guess, is what you're going to look about. We're going to start talking about, right?
Yeah.
We can just look at your notes.
No, we can just jump right into it. I might check a few things off.
Impart as much knowledge to these people as possible, and give them food for thought. These things that they're looking at. A lot of these people are really very, very good at forecasting what's happening in their company. Right. They can forecast sales. They can forecast what they're going to spend in supply chain for the next year if they're a manufacturer, or forecasting sales if they're a provider of capacity in some form in the supply chain, or service.
Right.
And they're really good at that. And then they look like they're goofy and they don't know what they're doing because they haven't been forecasting and they don't foresee these changes coming. 2018, for example. A lot of very, very smart people didn't look so smart.
Right.
But here, because as my good friend Dooner said, you can't freight without forecasting.
It would be foolish.
And illegal in some states.
It should be. It should be.
It should be. So enough of that. Let's jump into it a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about industrial sector.
Yeah, let's talk about the industrial sector. Keeping it high level, I mean...
And I've got charts here pulled up, so let me know when you want me to go into one of those. Here.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think the first one we're going to look at is industrial production. And for those who aren't familiar with industrial production, it's really... Everyone's familiar with GDP. And, that's the gross domestic product. That's the headline item. And that's a thing for another show. Maybe we can go on how to look at the GDP, because the headline item it's not going to have a lot to do with freight. But when we're looking at the industrial sector, industrial production is going to be pretty much your standard gauge for interpreting the manufacturing segment. And that's because when you're looking at industrial production, about 75% of it is going to come from manufacturing, 15% from mining, and the rest from utilities. And so really what's happening in manufacturing is really going to be what's happening in industrial production. And of course, when we're looking at industrial production and manufacturing, that's going to have close ties to the movement of freight. Right.
As opposed to utilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, water authorities, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
Electricity, although it is very similar in some veins with, freight futures. Trade and hedge against it, et cetera. But manufacturing is really where you're saying orders and shipping and purchasing of the raw materials, I guess, would be in there, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're going to get into, I think here in the next chart, is there a chart coming up next?
There is. If I remember which way I'm supposed to, there it is.
Okay. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a second. I've got my.
Got some cool stuff up here.
I do. I've got my C-suite here. We'll dig into this in a later. This is a little bit too deep for first show, I think.
Okay.
So I think I have
A little sneak peek.
Yeah, little sneak peek. So industrial. I think this is where we were going. It's right here.
Perfect. I like how you can set up different just dashboards in Sonar, though. But
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, let's talk about this.
yeah, and so when
So
we're
what are we
looking at
looking
this,
here, man?
we're looking at
what the heck is iProd?
so iProg is industrial production. iPro being industrial production, G indicating year-over-year growth, and
Right.
then USA for the USA. So when we're looking at that, we have iProg industrial production, and the blue line, and in the green line we have the ISM PMI. So we're going to get into that here shortly, but we're looking at just focus on the blue line for now. We can look at the industrial production, and industrial production. If we take our eyes to that 2016 mark.
Here, will it help if I grab this?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Check it out. Here we are.
So,
Okay.
Vincent, you were in the freight market in 2016.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I was. Well, I was transitioning.
Okay.
So I was directly in it and moving to positions here at FreightWaves.
Okay.
But yeah, but it was rough.
It was rough, and
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah.
as we can see,
It wasn't as rough as
yeah,
this is a little rough.
0809, yeah, that was
This is a little
real,
rough.
yeah,
This
yeah,
was about here. We decided just light your hair on fire, put your hands up,
Right.
and line it down.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
It was but yeah, absolutely.
So 2016, rough year, and also a rough year for industrial production as well. Thing that happened in 2016 is the economy kept growing. So when
Right.
you're looking at GDP, this is why you can't look at the headline number, because if someone's like, yeah, U.S. is doing great, economy's going great, what are you talking about? Freight's down. This is why.
well, so freight recession.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have what all the indicators, like the headline
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
economy's awesome.
Right.
Freight not so awesome.
Yeah, economy's run by the consumer. Great, that's also good for freight, but a lot of it's going to be tied to services, goods and services.
Right,
We care about the
right,
goods, not so much about the services.
Yeah.
And in the green line, real quick, we have the ISM PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index. And so that was in the headlines a bit recently. And so real quick, just giving a backdrop on the PMI, it's put out by the Institute for Supply Management, and it's a diffusion index. So it's anything under 50 is indicative of contraction. Anything above 50 is indicative of expansion. And so I'm pretty sure these are two both very familiar indices that our viewers might be familiar with, those that are into freight forecasting.
Right.
The cool thing about the PMI is that because it is a survey, it's not tangible results. So you pair it with something that has tangible results, like the industrial production. Cool thing about it is,
so why do the survey?
so it's a forward-looking survey. So
It's really like it's purchasing manager. It's their sentiment.
yeah, it's essentially a sentiment for
Right.
for
So
them.
you're the people in the know. How they feel? Are
Yeah,
they
in the
Are they
trenches.
skittish or feeling good?
Right.
So it gives you
Yeah.
okay. This other that confirms a positive. It feels a little bit better if also the people in the know feel a little bit positive.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
And it's a forward-looking indicator. So if we can see, and for example, in 0809, that hit a trough, a low in the green line before it did in the blue line, and then also started to rise before the blue line started to rise. And so typically it's a forward-looking indicator.
Right. And so this survey of sentiment is actually pretty.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's not dead on accurate.
No, it's not dead on, but it gives you an idea.
It's definitely showing you. It definitely predicts the trend.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
the specific peaks and valleys aren't dead on.
Right,
But
right.
If you're looking at what does it look like for the next quarter.
Yeah. And that's how you need to be planning. That's how you need to be thinking.
Right.
And that's a big part of, I think, forecasting. For those that are forecasting, familiar with forecasting, I think the big thing is not doing something at the wrong time. It's all about timing. And I think my previous life, when I was advising C-suite individuals on how to act in certain business environments,
So you
certain
went from
business
C-suite to me.
Yes, I did.
Your life rocks.
Wouldn't change it for the world. When I was doing that, the big takeaway was not making a move at the wrong time. So a lot of times businesses would will be up in the upswing, but they'll be planning for the upswing while we're in the upswing. It's already too late.
Right.
You should have been thinking about it already.
Right.
And
yeah,
now,
absolutely.
And so that's a big thing about it now. And so if
because these swings are after the fact.
yeah, it's after the
right?
fact.
So you're riding the wave after it's already gone.
Yeah,
by,
you should have
basically.
you already have your bottlenecks there. You don't have the right people or equipment in place.
Right.
So what do we see this year in 2019? People were coming online still like it was 2018, right? And
Exactly.
and so it
right.
was a really bit behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's behind and capacity's still growing.
Yeah. So it's like the wrong time.
Yeah.
And so I think people are going to be truncating a little bit now after, it's obviously slowed. But now it's time to start thinking about the upswing. And I think there's going to be an upswing in the second half of 2020. But
you do.
But that's neither here nor there.
So I'm going to write that down.
Write it down. But if we just kind of drag this over a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, if I can do that a little bit. Or should I
Can probably zoom in a little bit. Right?
zoom in?
Yeah.
We'll show this a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Better as to what is going on here. Right.
Yeah. So
Right,
recently
right.
we had a nice little a pop-up in industrial, or not industrial production, but
You
the
don't
PMI.
see it really well here, but
No.
so the blue, the actual industrial production year over year change, or IPROG,
IPROG.
is behind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's behind.
Right.
And that's the big thing. So it's government issued data. Government likes to track things.
Mhm.
They track you. They track me. They track data.
What?
Yeah, they track us. They're listening right now. But they're tracking us, and so they also like to track what's going on in the country, including the industrial sector, the manufacturing sector.
Right.
And one of the things with that is that it's very granular, great data, great to confirm things.
Yeah.
But alas, it's late. We're in February now. The latest data for industrial production is through December. So it gives you an idea of where to look, how to look.
So what you're saying is, this is all you need.
This is neat. All you need to look at what's already happened to help
In other
confirm.
words, you need more stuff.
You need more stuff.
Right.
You
And
need
I've
more
talked
stuff.
about that before in a high level. There's some that say, okay, listen, the simpler you keep it and the simpler the inputs, the more accurate you're going to be, as if they're applying Occam's razor to a
Yeah.
puzzle or something
Yeah.
like that. This is not the case.
Right.
More data, the better.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to get into analysis to paralysis, and
Yeah.
some do.
Yeah.
But you need more than just go, hey, look, it's on the upswing.
Exactly.
March is going to kick butt.
Yeah.
Because this green line says so.
Yeah. And again, it's a sentiment. And as you mentioned earlier, it's not one-to-one. It's not always right. And so there's a whole other host of things that go into interpreting that bump up. There's catalysts, and then there's headwinds and all that stuff. But
Right.
as I mentioned, the good thing about industrial production is that it's granular. So one of the granularities is, so there's manufacturing and non-manufacturing. And then there's construction materials, machinery types. For non-manufacturing, there's the biggest component is going to be, I think, food, beverage, and tobacco products. I think we even have that up
Beverage,
here.
I've got this. You want me to bring that up?
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so basically you're looking at industrial production right here, right?
Yeah.
And if we take a little bit of a deeper look here into that, one segment is what we're kind of going into,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we're not looking at everything overall, but okay, if you're a reefer carrier,
Yeah.
well, a refrigerated capacity provider.
Yeah, we have people listening.
The government. Anthony told me the government's watching. So this is something you're gonna look at, right?
Right,
If
exactly.
If you're a shipper of anything really that
Yeah.
requires refrigerated,
Exactly.
this is going to show you. It
Exactly.
doesn't have to be food and bev.
No, it doesn't have to, because
Right.
we have non-manufacturing as well.
Well, you also have non-food and bev that requires temperature control,
Yeah.
and that's going to eat
Paint.
up the capacity as well, the
Yeah.
reefer capacity, right?
Yeah, especially during
Now.
now when it's cold and freeze protect.
Yeah, right? All right, let me bring this up here. Econ reefer is what I've got. Economical reefer is what we're looking at. That's not true. Okay.
Perfect.
Are we good? You need me to zoom in or move anything?
We can probably even zoom out a little bit, but this is
Really?
actually really. Can we zoom out a little bit?
What is that, the minus?
That's minus.
There we go. Is that
All right.
good?
That's fine. Yeah, that's good.
So tell us what we're looking at here. Rotri and iProg beved.
From Bev. So yeah, we're looking at the reefer outbound tender rejection index, one of the proprietary indices that we have here in Sonar, and we're pairing it with industrial production year-over-year growth for food and beverage.
So quick, let me level set that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because I talked about it a couple times in other shows, and some people who utilize Sonar and follow FreightWaves probably know it.
Yeah.
I suppose. They've heard it before. So, but those that may not, I believe you said your mother was going to be watching this show. She may not know road try.
Oh, geez.
So road try so O-try
Yeah.
are tender rejects. So
Right.
we measure the number of loads expressed as a percentage that are being rejected on a daily basis.
Right.
So if there's 100 loads offered and 25 of them are refused, rejected, that would be a 25
Right.
on the O-try index.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And the reason for that rejection could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's this huge demand for the capacity is just not there
Yeah.
that particular day, or maybe it's because the head haul and the inbound and outbound fluctuation of the freight has changed, or capacity is just drying up in general, or or there's a market near it that's eating up that capacity.
Right.
So there's a
Right.
ton of different things that could be happening.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, this is showing the result.
Yeah.
If there's capacity or not to handle it.
Right.
Road try particular is just reefer capacity. It takes out
Yeah.
the drive end, it takes out the flatbed and all the other stuff.
Exactly.
Beautiful, brother. Now
Exactly.
what's iProg for Bev?
iProg Bevd is a fancy ticker that we have in Sonar that shows the industrial production for food, beverage, and tobacco products. And so this is going to be a huge component of what's typically hauled in reefers.
Gotcha.
And so we can see a nice correlation here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm sorry, we can zoom back in here a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
The latest data point for that green line industrial production is going to be through December. That's great and all. We can help confirm some things,
Let me
but
give dates on that, right?
Yeah.
So it's sitting at about 24.38.
yeah, and that's through December. That's great, you know.
Actually, that's not true.
Huh?
It's sitting at 2.06.
Gotcha.
Sorry, it's on the left
Yeah.
y-axis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
so, yeah, that's going to tell us, you know, some trends that's happened in December. But Michael Vincent, we're in February. I need to know what's happening now. If I'm going to forecast,
That's a good point.
I don't want to forecast what happened a month and a half ago. I want to
Solid point.
forecast what's happening right now.
Solid point.
And so I can see some of that coming down in the road try. And so that gives me the ability to see what's happening right now. And so if I'm
So in other words, if you're in this space, you need refrigerated capacity,
yeah,
or you provide it
right.
in either way as an asset
Yeah.
carrier, right? Providing it, or it's part of your services that you provide as an intermediary.
Yeah.
You look at these government data as we did before. That was very high level, but there's
Yeah.
other government data that you can look at as well.
Right.
That's going to give you an indication. This is going to give you what you're saying is just looking at the amount of rejected refrigerated loads.
Yeah.
Can give you an indication as to the health of the food and beverage
Yeah,
industry.
I think so. Yeah, it's going to tell you what that market is looking like, what's happening right now, what's moving on those roads. Are people
Right.
rejecting these loads because they're just tied up,
Right.
and or is capacity loose right now?
So if I'm looking at this right here, and I get
Yeah.
it. So here's your iProg for Bevd,
Yes,
right? So your food and beverage and tobacco.
yes,
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Production, and here's your points, and they're clearly bouncing against new highs.
Yeah.
Right. It's a decent, strong trend.
Right.
Right. And obviously, what you're looking at is the rejections, which were growing, because you can see that the rejections are daily, up to date. This
Yeah.
is yesterday.
Yeah.
This is last month's in
Right.
production.
right,
So if you imagine back here, you're seeing rejections here climbing
Yeah.
when you're looking at here in production.
right,
So rejections are climbing. More loads are being rejected, meaning, in this instance, meaning capacity cannot handle the volume,
right.
which now we see capacities easily
It's
handling.
coming, yeah.
So we would expect to see this line start to drop.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, that's what I would expect to happen. And Mom, I'm not a betting man, but that's a way to like really pivot and be able to see something a lot sooner than
Right.
most of the people in the industry, because now they're going to be forecasting off of that December data point.
Right.
As a-
And this, but to your point, it's excellent to verify.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
to prove out correlations and to backcast to prove out your modeling for forecasting and monitoring where you're at exactly right now, and an analysis of how the different things react with each other.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That's perfect.
Gotcha.
And so that's exactly how I wish I would have had some of this information in my previous roles. when I was consulting or advising, so to speak, and being able to really benchmark and really be able to forecast from a more recent date.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, what do we want to do now? We want to look at other stuff, right?
Yeah, we have other stuff, and
All
so
right, cool. So where are we going now?
the government data
lead
is
production?
deep.
No,
lead production. The government data goes deep, Vincent.
it does.
And,
I know it does.
We're talking forecasting here, and one of the components I immediately thought of when you brought this idea to me was orders. And I think those who are looking at what's coming online, those who track certain KPIs, really kind of have their eyes on orders. And
Is that good?
that's perfect. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
So what you're saying is, I mean, we were high level. We went
Yeah.
into reefer.
Yeah.
And then showed this obscure O-try or
Yeah.
row-try for
Yeah,
reefer.
yeah.
Now we're kind of backing up a little bit.
Yeah, we're
Coming
almost
out of reefer and into just general transportation.
Yeah, general.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so one of the things we spoke of on earlier was the Purchasing Managers Index, right? And so
Right.
that one was one of the segments that is not exactly tangible results, but it's a leading indicator, because when those executives in North America that are feeling confident about making these purchases or feeling confident about the market, those typically lead into new orders or tangible production results. And so
Right.
new orders are indicative of things that are going to come online. Those are showing that these are orders that are or commitments that are set to be produced. And so that's going to lead to production.
This is not shipped. This is not produced.
Yeah.
This is basically measuring the market, the economy.
Yeah.
Is saying, produce these.
Yeah.
If these orders are right today. What the orders are.
Yeah, yeah.
Can indicate what's going to move in the
Yeah,
future.
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So why year-over-year change on non-defense and capital goods, excluding aircraft?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
commonly referred to as ordringjiks.
Yeah, that's how I always hear it growing up.
That's what, I mean, we used to have a childhood song.
Yeah, exactly.
That went like that.
Yeah, every Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. Well, festive.
Yes. When we're looking at this index, this is government data, so it's broken down in different components. And so the non-defense aspect, we can break that down because defense spending has swings. It's
Sure.
volatile at times. I think the most
Well, it
recent...
can go up even when the economy is down.
Yeah,
Right? So it's not
yeah.
really tied to it.
Yeah, and so that's going to kind of skew some of the underlying
Couple
trends.
tweets, and it
Oh,
goes
it's
up.
jack that thing up.
Right. Gotcha.
And so we strip that out. We also take out aircraft. That's another one that has swings. I don't know if you heard about the Boeing 737 MAX, but
I've heard about it.
That's bringing some things down,
Yeah,
including
yeah.
the planes
Yeah,
and
it's not-
production. And so that can
not good.
no, and so that can also sway the trend. And so we take those two things out, and what that
So it
does,
cleans the data a little bit.
it cleans it a little bit.
It makes it a little bit more accurate to move the needles.
Exactly. And
Gotcha.
so when we're looking at it like that, it's really used as an industry wide for business to business activity for capital goods. And so
Right.
when businesses are really starting to ramp up production. And so what we're seeing here is a good measurement of what kind of activities kind of be coming online for businesses here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're looking at business to business activity, that's also going to be indicative of freight
Freight movement.
capital goods.
They move it like on ships and planes and trucks and stuff?
Sometimes,
there?
sometimes
Gotcha.
intermodal. Heard that term before?
I heard that before. Yeah, across many different modes, right?
Yes. And so we're
No, excellent. So what do we look at? I mean, so we're looking at here, and we're looking at, so O-Tri, and we explained tender rejects earlier, and we were looking at reefer specifically.
Right.
So now we're looking at O-Tri, which are the tender rejects.
Yeah, it's
right?
much more
on
general.
a daily basis.
Yeah.
But it's over the road capacity.
Right.
It's not rail.
Right.
It's not necessarily intermodal.
Yeah.
It is over the road surface transportation, dry van,
Right, yeah.
refrigerated, flatbed, etc. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's a more general outlook. Same with orders. So, but the big thing is always keep your mind on orders and always see what's moving, what rejection rates are looking like in the country. And so
Right.
this is one of the areas where I watch closely, because if you're freight forecasting, if you're forecasting any kind, you want to look at business to business activity, because when that starts,
And that's what this is.
that's what that is.
I mean, the specific capital goods is
Yeah.
what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Here. This is not me buying, a guitar on Amazon.
Yeah, this is nothing to do with the consumer.
Nothing
No.
with that at all.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so we want to keep our eyes on this. And so that's going to be indicative of trends here to come and in the next few months. And so we're starting to see a nice little tick up here. I'm not going to say if this is going to stick or not. I don't have too high expectations for this to be robust in a few months coming up. But we're starting to see a nice, subtle rise. And I think that's going to be one of the telltale signs when we get to the second half or mid 2020.
Now, you say that, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's important that we stop and dig into this chart right here.
Yeah.
Because just in case there's somebody following along.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Just in
may not
case.
be likely, but just in case, right?
Yeah.
The tender rejects
Mm-hmm.
are leading the orders year-over-year change,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they should be indicating which way this is going.
Yeah.
Much like the refrigerated tender rejects on the iProg FBEV,
Yeah. The
Right?
FreightWaves. Yeah.
right? So food and beverage and tobacco production, right? It led it, so it was an indicator.
Right.
However, you're saying that this increase here that we're seeing, and I should really be using this because I'm pointing at it as if people can see what the heck I'm pointing at. I'm really not that bright. Right here
Yeah.
could still go up, but you're not super confident in it. And there's probably input data endpoints that we're not going to talk about today
Right.
for that. So let's just let that hang there.
Yeah,
That's fine. Everybody goes, yeah, I see why.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. But if this is leading it,
Mm-hmm.
then people would expect this spike to be pulling this higher,
Yeah.
and then this be pulling it lower,
Right,
just
right.
like we were seeing in refrigerator.
Right.
But you're saying that may not possibly be the case.
That's right.
Could it had something to do with this date in history?
Yeah. And that's the big point, because you can have the data, but you need someone to interpret the data.
Yeah.
And so, Mike,
I mean,
Vincent, what happens during this time of the year?
You mean truckers don't want to all be on the road for Christmas and New Year's?
That's wild.
It's crazy. So that's what that is.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
holiday spike, and you can see it in the stuff.
Right.
You see it, it's right there. It gets crazy at Christmas. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to start rejecting. We see tender lead times or offering of loads 5-6 days out further
Right.
to try and secure capacity so that they can go. The transportation managers can go home and enjoy their Christmas and know that it's covered and
Yeah.
so on. But it's also expanding because they know. Anthony Smith Trucking is not taking it on Christmas.
Yeah.
But he'll be back on the 3rd.
Right.
Not the 2nd because he's got to recover.
The 3rd.
So the 3rd.
Yes.
Right? So that's what that is.
Yeah.
And why you need to have experts. You need to have a freight forecaster
Yeah.
know what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And experts in different fields and know what's going on to know that spike does not
Yeah.
mean that production or orders,
It's about to ramp
it's about
up.
to ramp up and go
Right.
crazy. In fact, if you look at this, it's the O-try or the tender rejects is coming back to pre-November, pre-holiday season levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that might indicate that orders will come back somewhere near this trough. Might.
Right. Might. Yeah.
You got to
yeah.
look at other stuff.
Exactly. And that's the big thing. You have to attack it from all different angles. You're going to get some false positives here. You're going to get some, different headwinds. You're going to get some catalysts. And so really being able to dissect which each input's going to mean for your business
Yeah.
and what it's going to mean for the overall trend. And so the other thing is knowing how to operate in certain business cycles. And so knowing if you're in a down cycle, how to operate. If you're in an up cycle, how to operate, how to prepare, and
Right.
what your timeline's looking like. And so
Right.
I think those are going to be some of the core foundational principles to really kind of freight forecast off of.
Excellent. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're about out of time here.
Yeah.
This was great.
Thanks for having me.
I loved it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
There's a
of
reason I
course.
chose you first.
Yes. You heard
Because I
it here.
saved the best for last.
Love it.
Not true. So, freight forecasting. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show. You learned a little bit. It was still a little bit high level, but excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Anthony.
for having me.
Appreciate it very, very much. We'll have Anthony on again, and we'll dig into other parts because these are not just the only things that an economist looks at,
Oh, geez.
especially a lead economist.
Yeah. No, there's more.
Right? There's plenty more, but it gives you we're starting to take those deeper dives into these different indicators and how you can use these. But then again, you can't look at this one
Right.
because there's other stuff out there. You got to bring that data together, and you got to have that expertise, and you've got to have tools to be able to look at this and run correlations and backcast, et cetera.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So excellent. Hey, Thursdays, 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on Thursdays. Freight
Yeah.
Forecasting. I'm your host, Michael Vincent, and I hope to see you next week. Don't know who I'm going to have on next week. I think it's going to be Donnie Gilbert.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff that brokers can really dig into or stick their teeth into. So.
Donnie knows a thing or two about broken.
Right. Yeah. He's been broke before. So thanks a lot. Peace and love.